Tashtile, good evening everyone. Welcome to Tibet This Week, a weekly feature in English that tells you about this week's news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Central Tibetan Administration. Let us look at the headlines first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama successfully concludes United States visit. Chair of European Union Human Rights Subcommittee calls for resumption of Sino-Tibetan dialogue. 37 United States Congressmen urged President Trump to appoint United States Special Coordinator for Tibetan issues. Tibet Square, located in the center of Vilnius city in Lithuania, got its own plaque. Telling the Tibet story and building the Tibet narrative highlighted at media coordinators meeting. The Tibetan spiritual leader, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, successfully concluded the two-week visit to the United States. The final leg of the visit featured a public address to over 2,000 Tibetans in Boston. His Holiness urged the Tibetans in free countries to take up responsibility in keeping up their spirits in order to encourage their brothers and sisters in Tibet who remain impressively determined and call for freedom and equality for Tibetans inside Tibet. His Holiness also said that at this time of difficulty, unity of the three provinces is important, and while remaining within the People's Republic of China, Tibetans are seeking genuine autonomy so that Tibetan culture, language and traditions can be preserved. The ballroom filled with cheers of joy as His Holiness declared that he is in excellent health. In Minneapolis, His Holiness participated in a groundbreaking panel discussion titled A Call for Compassion and Conscious Kindness with Bill Austin of Star Key Hearing Technologies and actor, director and UNESCO Special Envoy for Peace and Reconciliation, Boris Whitaker. 250 politicians, businessmen and women and Star Key employees listened to His Holiness's message of peace and compassion.
More compassion mind there, your whole life can carry honestly, truthfully. That brings inner strength, self-confidence. Nothing to hide, transparent. So firstly, as a result of practice of compassion, you gain inner strength, reduce fear, and you find more friends. We are social animal. On top of that, then we are social animal. Friendship is very important. In order to develop genuine friendship, trust is key factor. In order to develop trust, first you show them your sincere concern of their well-being, then trust comes.
His Holiness decried materialistic approach towards education and called upon the participants to develop a sense of universal responsibility and realize that technology alone will not provide us love. Member of European Parliament Pier Antonio Panzeri, also the chairman of the Subcommittee on Human Rights of the European Parliament, expressed concerns over the grave human rights situation inside Tibet and called on the Chinese government for the resumption of Sino-Tibetan dialogue. Panzeri's statement came to light in a press release issued last Thursday on the occasion of 35th European Union-China Human Rights Dialogue. The subcommittee highlighted the ongoing destruction of the Larungar Buddhist Institute by the Chinese authorities and the violation of fundamental human rights in Tibet, and urged the European Union and its member states to consistently raise these individual cases and issues with Chinese counterparts, also outside the human rights dialogue, in their regular exchanges, including trade and investment. The 35th round of EU-China Human Rights Dialogue was held in the Belgian capital for 2 days last week. 37 United States congressmen wrote a joint letter urging President Trump to appoint at the earliest possible a special coordinator for the preservation of Tibet's unique religious, cultural and linguistic traditions and to press for improved respect for human rights. The letter stated that the systematic suppression of basic human rights and religious freedom, most recently evidenced by the large-scale demolitions carried out at the historic Tibetan Buddhist Institute of Larungar, continues unabated and that it is a critical time for Tibetans. The letter further stated that the first step towards addressing all these problems is to name a new special coordinator for Tibetan issues. The position of the United States Special Coordinator for Tibetan Issues has been left vacant since the election of Donald Trump as the President of the United States. On Tuesday last week, Tibet Square, located in the center of Vilnius city in Lithuania, got its own plaque, though it was opened 7 years ago. The mayor of Vilnius noted that this plaque, together with other such plaques of its kind, points to Vilnius as a city which is open to people of different nationalities, languages and religions. He further noted that despite an absence of a Tibetan community in Vilnius, the plaque unveiling was organized by the local Friends of Tibet community. The Department of Information and International Relations of Central Tibetan Administration organized a meeting of spokespersons, media coordinators of Central Tibetan Administration's 7 departments and the autonomous bodies and personal assistants of the CTA ministers. The President of Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Sengye, who also holds the portfolio of Department of Information and International Relations, Kalun, spoke about importance of Central Tibetan Administration's news platforms as the most credible source for news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and the Central Tibetan Administration. He urged the media coordinators to take utmost care of the details and content of their reports and framing of images while filing news reports, and emphasize on building a strong Tibet narrative that will have mass buy-in. Information Secretary Dadun Shaling, while conveying the concluding remarks, said information is the new battleground and that Central Tibetan Administration's media coordinators become important contributors to sustain and strengthen information dissemination efforts of the Central Tibetan Administration's news websites. Shobhan Saxena, renowned Indian journalist at The Wire and Times of India, and Tenzin Pelje, Chief Editor for Voice of Tibet, were invited as guest speakers. So much for this week. See you next Friday. Have a good weekend.